up, Doc? What's cooking? What's up, Doc? Oh, you're looking for Bugs Bunny bunting. Duck is gonna hunting just to get a rabbit skin, but now the rabbit's gonna get. What's up, Doc? What's cooking? Hey, look out! Stop! You're gonna hurt someone with that old shotgun. Hey, what's up, Doc? We really mean it. What's up, Doc?
Hello, friends. Are you ready?
What's for dinner? I'm hungry.
Yum, 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 yum.
Delicious.
Let's go, everybody. Yay! Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Zoe's Blind Kitchen Corner. Yay, I got that right. I'm getting better at this. Just to remind you guys that if you need to get a hold of me, of course you can comment in the comment section below, or you can send an email to zoesblindkitchencorner@gmail.com, and Zoe's is without an apostrophe, Z-O-E-S, blindkitchencorner@gmail.com. Other than that, you can always, of course, get a hold of these episodes are being aired on Whose Blind Life Is It Anyway? That's Victor Gouvea's YouTube channel. And if you can't get a hold of me, you can always contact Victor at whoseblindlifeisitanyway@gmail.com. So, on to today's recipe. It's we're going to do another vegan recipe. A very common recipe in a Greek home. Way back when, in my grandmother's time, meat was a rare commodity, meaning they would eat meat mostly once a week. It was a Sunday treat. So the Sunday table would be set up with some chicken or a roast lamb or some pork or whatever the case may be. In some occasions, they'd have it twice a week, but mostly it was once a week. So the Greek diet was mainly made up of, it was a very balanced diet, something we should be eating really today. It was, meat once a week, fish maybe once or twice a week, and then your, 2, 3, 4 vegan dishes, which usually consisted of some sort of a bean dish, whether it was navy beans or chickpeas or something to that effect. And then you had your vegetable dishes, like the one we're doing today. And of course, I've mentioned this in the past. We have fasting periods, and of course, this is a common dish also made on Wednesdays and Fridays. Also, this was really a summer dish, because we're making green beans with potatoes in tomato sauce. So when did Greeks get beans? They got them in the summertime. Bean season, it's the long green beans, is prominent in, I guess, around July, August, September. So this is when they would make this dish, and of course that's also tomato season. In this day and age, we can get green beans at any time at the supermarket. We can get green beans frozen all year round. So it's not a summer dish anymore. Unless you're really following season eating, which we should be doing. We shouldn't be having tomatoes in January. But we've grown accustomed to eating tomatoes all year round. If we followed the seasons and we followed the way of eating with meat once in a while and so on, we would actually all be better off. Anyhow, that's my opinion. That's sort of the Greek mentality. Unfortunately, even in Greece now, they don't follow this as much anymore because they've got frozen green beans and so on and so forth. Anyhow, you can make this dish with fresh beans. It would take longer to boil them because we're going to add the beans into the pot and boil them. I'm using frozen beans, and I'm actually using, so this dish in Greek is called fasolakia me patatas. Fasolakia is the word for green beans. It's actually it's not specified green beans. It's actually just the word fasolakia is the word for fresh beans. So if we were using navy beans, if it was a dish with navy beans, it would be fasolia. But because these are your green beans, they're called fasolakia. Now, there's different kinds of beans you can use. The ones I use, even if I'm making this dish from scratch, fresh, I try to get the flat green beans, which for me in Toronto, it's hard to find. When I do find them, I grab them and I snip off the ends and pull off the strings, and I love to use them, but I can't get them all year round. What I am using is these frozen beans, and my husband's gonna help me this way.
The other way.
This way?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna try not to move the bag. They are frozen green beans from Greece. They're imported. Again, just like I've mentioned in the past, you can get them at Greek supermarkets. In Toronto, our Greek supermarkets are combinations of bakeries and supermarkets together. And you can get these. The brand, which I know is hard for you guys to pronounce, is barba stathis. So if you want to jot that down, I'm going to spell it out for you in English. And it's M-P-A...
B.
Oh, they have it with B. Okay, well, that's not actually really proper. But anyways, okay. So B-A-R-B-A is the first word. Mm-hmm. And that's B as in Bravo. B-A-R-B-A. And stathis, which is actually a Greek name, is S-T-A-T-H-I-S, I believe. Yeah, so jot that down, and it's barba stathis, and you don't have to tell them fasolakia. You can if you want. It's F-A-S-O-L-A-K-I-A. But if you say barba stathis green beans, believe me, they'll give them to you.
Sorry, I'm interrupt you. They say on barba stathis flat beans.
There you go. So on the package, it actually says flat beans. And these are probably about 450 grams per package. They're very nice, flat, big beans. I'm going to show you guys them when I open them up. Okay, so that's it. Let me tell you the ingredients. I'm cooking for, like I said, I've said it in the past, I cook for 5. So I'm going to use 3 of these bags, which is almost 1.5 kilograms of green beans. By all means, go ahead and cut the recipe in half if you're making this for, a smaller family. So we've got 3 bags of our beans. I'm using 3 medium onions. It could be too large. If you're cutting the recipe in half, don't get so picky about doing 1.5 onions. You could do 2 medium onions. I'm using parsley. Now this is finely chopped parsley that I've chopped up when I brought home from the supermarket, and I had it in the freezer. This dish needs quite a bit of parsley. I'm going to actually use this whole amount, which is probably about 3 big handfuls. If you're cutting it in half, use 2 handfuls. The parsley is going to give it a lot of taste. Then we've got salt and pepper to taste. I have a cup over there, a cup of olive oil. Now, again, if you're cutting it in half, just use half a cup. And a can of crushed tomatoes. It's 14-ounce can. I'm going to use a heaping tablespoon of tomato paste, water, and potatoes. Now, potatoes, again, some are big, some are small, some are large, some are small. Some like more, some like less. I'm using 4 potatoes, and I have them in water because I've cut them up. And you just cut them up as you would for roast potatoes in the oven. So you just cut them up. Okay, so I think we're ready to go. Enough talking for today. So I'm just going to move over. I have a stainless steel pot, and again, you guys know I like using my non-stick pot, but again, I'm using my stainless steel now because this is a bigger amount and it doesn't fit in my non-stick pot. So let's get the oil out of the way so I don't dump it and have an accident. So I'm just going to dump in to the pot. I have 1 cup of olive oil. I didn't actually fill it up all the way to the top. I left a little bit at the top. So like I said, in this recipe, it doesn't have to be exact. So don't worry about getting all the way to the top to the 1 cup. So I'm just pouring that in. And I'm just shaking the cup to get as much out as possible. And I toss that in the sink. And I'm going to use my little mini food processor. If you guys have a big one, please by all means go ahead and put all your onions in at once. I have my little mini one that I love to use, and I'm going to use it. So I'm just going to slice up my onions and stick them in my food processor. And I'm just slicing, like this onion, whoops, I sliced up into 3. Actually, I'm not going to use that. Okay, and I'm just going to pulse it. I'm going to stop pulsing. I opened it up and I'm just pushing with my finger. I'm pushing the onions down. And I'm just going to give it another pulse. And that's good enough. You don't want your onions to be totally mush. I'm just going to dump whatever's in my food processor. And I just lifted up the blade and I tapped it against the edge of the pot. Now, as I'm pushing the onions with my fingers out, if I feel a humongous piece, obviously I'm going to leave it in. But I don't feel any. I'm just throwing in my onion. And I don't have to even throw it in all. I didn't even get all of it out. I got most of it out. But because I'm going to do some more, it doesn't matter. So we'll go on to our second onion. See how quick this is? This is really quick. Imagine dicing 3 onions. Like, if I were to dice these by hand, it would take me much longer. My mom, she likes to dice the onion, which is fine. You can do it either way. For me, it's just easier and quicker. So I'm going to pulse my second onion. And again, I'm going to push down whatever with my fingers. And actually, I like, oh, there's a couple of big pieces, so we'll give it another pulse. Okay, and again, dump it in. And I'm just repeating what I did the first time, so that's why I'm not telling you guys. And I'm just pushing the onions out of the food processor container right into the pot. Okay. And again, I didn't even bother getting it all out because I have one more to do, the last one. And 1 slice. I'm actually slicing these onions up just into 3 pieces. So in they go. Oh, I forgot to put the blade in. That's nice. Okay, hold on. See? My husband didn't even catch that. Or maybe he did, but he was nice and didn't say anything.
No, I didn't catch it.
See? Okay, we got the blade in. I forgot to put the blade in, by the way, for those who can't see. So there you go. I just put my onions back in. And we're going to pulse. And again, I'm going to check with my finger. I'm pushing the onions down. And they're fine. I don't even need to pulse a second time this time. So I'm just going to empty the third onion in to my pot, into the oil. We dumped the oil in. And the blade. Tapping it, making sure all is off. And I'm going to push all the onions in. Now you need to try to get as much out as possible because we have no more onions to pulse. And you know what? Onions, they stick onto containers. So you might not get all, 100% out. You're going to get 97% out.
99%.
99%.
0.9.
99.9. And that's it. So I've got most of it out. And I'm just going to unplug my, whoops. Okay, unplugging my food processor. So in Greece, the food processors are called multis. So I keep wanting to say I'm going to unplug my multi. But in Canada and the US, it's known as a food processor. So I've got my, what did I do with my wooden spoon?
Oh, you left it here.
That's my husband telling me in Greek where I left my spoon. So I put my pot on my big burner and I'm going to turn it up to high. And I've got a wooden spoon in my hands. And we're going to wait for this to start sizzling. While this starts sizzling, I'm just going to bring my potatoes closer to me so that I'm not running over. So I have it on my burner next to me when I need it. They're just our cut up potatoes in water. And I'm just stirring up the onions. Not even sizzling yet. See, this is why I don't use this thing. The hood. It makes this noise. It's a good thing for your walls, I guess, and for the steam, but I can't hear what's going on. So I need to hear this start sizzling. So it started sizzling, but I'm going to give it a few stirs in a few seconds. And oh, by the way, I believe I'm using red onions. Red onions?
Yes.
Yeah. But you can use any onions you want. This is what I have on hand. So I'm going to turn it down to medium. And oh, look at that. I have onions on my hands. Okay. I've turned it down to medium. We're going to saute the onions for probably, I guess, about maybe 5 minutes. So I've set the timer for 5 minutes. You can do it for, as long as you 5, 6, 7 minutes, and I just gave it up another stir. And I'm going to listen. Is the sizzling strong enough for what I want? This is what I keep telling you guys, that this comes with experience. So the sizzling I hear is a little low. I want a little higher. So I'm going to turn it up. From medium, I'm just going to go up 1 to, so remember I said my stove has a 9 scale. So I went up to 6, just because the sizzling was very low. In the meanwhile, while this is sizzling up, because you don't need to constantly stir. You need to stir occasionally so your onions don't burn. And I'm just looking for scissors while I'm talking to you guys. I want to open up the beans. So our timer's telling us we've got 4 minutes. I just want to open up the beans for those who are sighted and show you guys, but I also need to get them ready. So I'm just snipping off the top. And we can just throw that. So here's one of the beans. This, and I just happened to grab one from the bag.
Humongous.
Humongous. It's 2 of my fingers length. I don't have a measuring tape because I actually ruined it. I ruined my measuring tape with the braille on it. I ruined it in the garden.
It's about 4 inches long.
This is, yeah, 4 inches long.
4 to 5 inches long.
And it's at least an inch thick. And they're flat. They're flat beans. These are so tasty, guys. The reason I use these particular beans, and I'm going to stir. It said 3 minutes. I'm just going to stir while I'm talking to you guys. Give it a nice stir. The reason I use these beans is I've mentioned before that certain vegetables taste differently in certain climates. These beans have the most wonderful taste. I'm not bashing Canada. Canada has a cold climate. I've had fresh beans in Canada. They're great. But seriously, they're not as great as these particular beans. And it's not because Canada is a bad country. No. But Greece is surrounded by the ocean. And it's got mountains. And it's a very, certain parts of Greece are actually subtropical. So the taste of the fruits and the vegetables are much different than here. They're, we're close to the Middle East. We're the Mediterranean Sea. So everything tastes different. So this is one way to get a little taste of Greece. If you can actually get these beans and use them, believe me, you'll thank me. They have a fantastic taste. Again, that's not to say that if you get fresh beans from the supermarket, that it won't be a good dish. It will. But just that little extra taste.
And can I say something?
Yes, you can.
This bag of flat beans is not expensive. It's about $4.50 to $5 each bag. So I don't think it's very expensive. I don't think it's very expensive.
No, I beg to differ. If that's, you can get a frozen bag of beans for $2.99 at No Frills.
Yes, for import, I don't think it's expensive.
Yes.
That's, it's not expensive for import.
Okay, so I've got about a minute left, and my onions are doing well. I'm going to start adding potatoes slowly, because I want to saute them a little. So I'm just grabbing 1 or 2 potatoes in my hands. I'm letting the excess water fall off as much as I can. And I'm just adding them in. And I'm just going to give them a stir. And because I want these to saute, I'm actually just going to move over and shut off the timer. Timer's basically telling me I have 30 seconds left. Again, if you wanted to saute your onions a little more, you could. So I'm just going to grab a handful of potatoes again. I was able to grab 3 pieces. And I'm going to add them in. Be careful when you drop them in, because you don't want the oil to splatter and burn you. So I just kind of feel for the heat of the pot, and I let them drop. And let them drop slowly so that it doesn't splatter you. Now I've added quite a few pieces, so I'm just going to stir them up. And the potatoes, because I had them in water, they are going to release a little bit of water. But for the most part, you're going to saute them. That's why when I lift up the potatoes, I'm actually shaking my hands and letting as much excess water fall off. Okay, and I've grabbed another handful. And I'm kind of trying to drop them around. Like, don't drop them in the same spot. But then again, even if you do, just use I'm using a wooden spoon just to distribute all the potatoes around the pot. So let's get some more happening. We're almost done with the potatoes. See, now I hear a sizzling, but I also hear like a boiling sound because of the little excess water that the potatoes have. But the water's so little that you're still going to get a little bit of a saute. Okay. Well, I'm just going to move this bowl so we don't have an accident into the sink. I've thrown in all our potatoes. And I'm just going to stir them up. Now, how long do you saute the potatoes? Well, sighted people might saute them until they see a little bit of color on the potatoes. It doesn't matter. Saute them here for 5 minutes. Okay, so I've set the timer for 5 minutes. My husband's never complained that, hey, your potatoes don't have color. Who's going to see that? Because you're going to add tomato sauce. So you're not going to see the color on the potatoes. Now, does sauteing them more, and I'm just stirring while I'm talking to you guys, and fold your potatoes over so some of the onions come up and mix in with the potatoes. Excuse me. Does sauteing them give them a little bit of an extra taste? Yes, it does. But you're not frying them up. You're just sauteing them. So 5 minutes is more than enough. And in this case today, I can feel that there's a little bit of liquid. Not much though, because I can hear a sizzle. And if I want these to saute a little bit faster, I can turn up my heat a little bit to medium high, I would say. But now I gotta stay on top of them because I've turned up the heat, right? So I don't want these to burn. And you can hear the sizzling sound got bigger, louder. So I'm just kind of moving them around and folding when I can. And while that's sizzling, I'm just going to open up my other bags of beans and have them ready, because I only opened up one to show you guys. So I'm just going to quickly open up my bags. And I'm not going to go into detail now. I hope you all, as blind people, know how to use a scissors without cutting yourselves. Okay, we've got our beans ready. Okay, and let's give our potatoes, see, when I stir, you can hear that sizzling sound get louder. So if I had this on, I can't really hear it. I mean, I can, but it's not that clear. So, line cook, I'm sorry I can't use that. And my mom gets mad at me, but she's sighted, right? So she doesn't understand. Well, I shouldn't say that. She understands a lot because she raised me with a lot of support as a blind person. But she's getting old. She's in her 70s and she's getting a little bit forgetful. So she means well, and I'm going to turn it down now a little bit. Just because we're getting near to adding our beans. And my husband who's filming this, he can tell you guys, this is just oil, potato, and onions. And already the smell is fantastic.
Uh-huh.
And of course this is a meal that you're going to serve with bread so you can slop up all the sauce. So I've got about a minute left on my timer. I'm going to start adding my beans slowly. I'm going to add the one bag. And I'm going to give it a stir. Because now you're dealing with frozen beans, okay? So this is going to take up a lot of room. So I'm giving it a stir and a fold. Mixing it up with the potatoes and the onions. And I'm going to let it sit for about a minute. And I'm actually lucky because I heard the timer go off. And I'm going to add my second bag. You can add them all at once, but I want to give them a little bit of time to settle so that it can all fit in my pot. Now, sorry, I forgot. I have 2, did it turn on? No, because I haven't plugged it in. I have about 2 glasses of water in my tea kettle, and I'm just going to...
It's on.
Yeah, so I'm gonna boil water to have it ready to throw into my pot, because if I add cold water, then I have to wait for it to boil. So I'm just boiling water, and I've used 2 glasses of water. Now, everybody's glasses are different. You got juice glasses, water glasses, and humongous glasses. I measured out my water in grams just to give you an idea of what type of a glass I'm using. And I'm using I think it was, 750 grams. 750 grams of water, and I put it in my tea kettle. And while I'm stirring up my beans and adding my beans, I've got the water boiling. So I'm just going to, timer go off. Oh, you stopped it. Well, that's not nice. See, this is a sighted person doing something to a blind person.
I'm sorry, I thought you...
No, because I wanted to see the 1 minute for the beans.
Oh,
so,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so this is my husband playing a joke on on his blind wife.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. So I just added the second batch of beans, and I'm gonna fold and try to bring up the potatoes, onions, and the first bag of beans from the bottom to the top, so that the fresh beans that I added in now, the next bag, can kind of move to the bottom. And you can hear a little bit of a sizzle. And I'm just going to let this sit again for a couple of minutes while, and you stir occasionally. Now, yeah, so you have to be careful with your boiling. You might have to test it out a little, because you don't want your beans to be underdone and your potatoes uncooked, or the other way around. You don't want your potatoes to be mush and your beans to be frozen. So usually the way I'm showing you guys will give you the perfect result. There's once in a blue moon you get that occasion that you might get a little bit mushy potatoes. It does happen, but it's rare. To help this, I want to tell you guys that I had the beans, I took them out of the freezer about an hour and a half before I started this recipe. I didn't leave them on my counter, I left them in my fridge. And I took them out when just before we started this recipe. So, pardon me, they have been sitting on my counter for at least maybe half an hour now. So, I'm going to add in my last bag of beans. And at this point, I'm not recommending this to blind people, but I can actually, my experience, because the beans are frozen and the heat is on medium, I can actually touch the top of my pot without burning myself. I can't touch the side. So I wouldn't recommend that for a blind cook. My experience tells me I can do it, but I wouldn't recommend it. You kind of just feel for your pot with the bag, feel for it with the bag, and throw your beans in. Okay, you know, it's not guesswork. I've showed you guys before, you always feel for the edge of your pot. So I've thrown in my last bag of beans, and I'm gonna fold and try to bring up what's at the bottom to the top. It's a little bit harder now because now there's a lot in here. So, I'm just gonna try a little bit. And it's a little hard. Anyways, now at this point, let's go for the parsley. This is a dish that needs quite a bit of parsley. especially for me that I'm making a huge pot with 3 bags. So like I said, I've got 1 huge handful in my hand, and I'm just sprinkling it into the pot. Yeah, set of them. Bloopers. I got a second handful, and I actually, for my hands, I've got not a big third handful. So about 3 handfuls. Maybe that's a bunch. 1 bunch of parsley. Again, if you're, now I had this frozen in my freezer. If you're doing half this recipe, or even a third of this recipe, you might want to just put a, you know, a handful, but a huge one. So I'm just gonna try. So what I'm doing now is, because it's hard to fold and I don't want all my parsley to fall out of my pot, I'm sticking my wooden spoon at the edge of the pot, and I'm trying to go underneath and just lifting slowly. It's almost as if you're tossing, but you're doing it in slow motion, because I can't stir this all up now, because you've got frozen beans, you've got huge potatoes, and you've got fine parsley. So I'm just going around the pot. See? And I'm just bringing stuff up. Anyways, that's good enough for now. So we're going to, sorry, I just dropped something. So now we're going to add our water, which I've boiled. So I feel for the edge. Now this is boiling water, be careful. And I'm just pouring it in with my tea kettle into the pot until I don't hear any more dripping out. So I'm shaking and there's nothing else coming out. I, of course, have my husband here to tell me that it's done. But if he wasn't here, it's not a big deal because I can hear it. So now we've got water in our pot. And I'm going to turn this up because I want to bring it to a boil. So I'm just turning the heat up to high. And now I can fold a little bit or do that tossing motion a little bit better because I've got water in here. And that helps. Okay. Pretty good. Now, let's add in our, salt and pepper. Now, I use sea salt. Sea salt is not that strong in food. If I were to add a tablespoon of the regular table salt, I might have to throw out the food into the garbage. It might just be way too salty. But with sea salt, for some reason, it's it's not as strong. So, and pardon me. And potatoes absorb a lot of salt when they cook. So I have a tablespoon and I'm scooping into my sea salt jar. I'm going to okay, I'm going to level it off. And you don't have to be exact. And I'm just going to move over to the pot and sprinkle it in. Tap just in case there's something on your spoon. I think that's more of a habit, but anyway. So we no longer need the salt. And I'm going to throw in 2 pinches of pepper. And I've showed you guys many times and told you many times how to do that. So I'm just grabbing with my 2 fingers a pinch, sprinkling it in, grabbing another pinch, sprinkling it in. Now, we don't need the pepper anymore. I want to tell you guys that I can already hear. I'm going to stir it up so the salt and pepper can go everywhere. I can already hear that this is starting to boil. And if I shut up, you can hear it too. So listen. See, you can hear the boiling sound. So I'm just going to stir this up. I just want to distribute the spices everywhere. Whoops. Okay, good enough. Now, and I just got a little bit of onion on my hand. I'm going to turn down the heat to medium. And I'm going to cover the pot. And I'm going to let this boil for 20 minutes. So I'm going to set the timer. So we've got our timer going for 20 minutes. I've got the heat on medium. I've got it covered. I'm going to give it a couple of, maybe a stir. I'm going to check on it on the 10-minute mark. The reason I'm going to check on it is to make sure that all my water hasn't been absorbed by the potatoes. I have this pot covered, so the steam should do its trick. It shouldn't be a problem. But I will come back in 20 minutes to show you the rest of the recipe. So let's let this boil and see you in 20 minutes. Okay guys, we're back. So our 20 minutes is up. I did check on it on the 10-minute mark. Now this is a stainless steel pot and it's hot. So I'm going to use my pot holders to lift up the lid, and I showed you guys that in the past. And you can hear the food, even though I have it on medium, it's boiling quite a bit. I'm just going to give it a quick stir again. And it looks good. Beans are nice and soft. Okay, it's pretty good. Potatoes are still a little hard, but that's okay. We're going to boil it up. We still have 20 minutes. So I've got the can of ground tomatoes, and this is a pull tab. I've told you guys in the past, the one I buy. So I just lift up the tab with my fingernails that I don't have, and I'm going to put my finger in the ring and pull open. And I'm going to pour in the crushed tomatoes. Feel for the edge of the pot so I know that I'm over the pot. And I'm just pouring it all in. There's always some left in the can. I'm just going to use my wooden spoon to push any out. There's still going to be some left, but don't worry. So I'm going to put the can down. I want to give it up a stir. Mix it all up. Mix the tomato sauce up with our food. And the boiling point has settled down now because we've added something in. That's fine. So, I told you guys how to store tomato paste. When you use tomato paste and you don't use the whole can, you use what you want and then you flatten it with your finger, whatever's left in the can, and you add olive oil, put plastic wrap on top and put it in the fridge. So now there's olive oil here. So I'm just going to I'm going to go over the sink and I'm going to let the oil drip out. And I can actually hear it. If I want, I can also put my finger just to make sure that the tomato paste doesn't fall out. It won't. Now, all the oil isn't going to come out completely, but it doesn't matter. You've got oil in your food. I'm going to take a big spoon and I'm going to scoop out just a heaping tablespoon. Guys, it doesn't matter. You want to put less, more, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to, now I've pulled out tomato paste. I'm going to put my finger in and I'm going to push down the tomato paste. I'm pushing it down from the edges and I'm flattening it with my finger. And when I'm done with you guys, I'm just going to put this on the side now. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil, put the plastic wrap back on, and put it in the fridge, and it'll be ready for my next meal when I need it again. So, let's put that aside. Let's get rid of there we go. I've got tomato paste on my fingers, so I'm just wiping them up. It's okay. Now, remember, I use spring water. You guys, tap water's fine if that's what you use. I'm just gonna, I put the heaping tomato, tablespoon of tomato paste in my can. So I'm just gonna add water. And you don't have to fill it up, just add it and mush it with your, you're not gonna completely mush it, and I wouldn't worry because it's gonna, I'm mushing the tomato paste in the water against the walls of the can with my spoon. It's not gonna mush completely, and it doesn't matter because you're gonna add this into your food. So I'm just gonna fill, sorry, I just need to go over the sink and fill a little bit more water. And I'm gonna use my finger to see where I am. I'm pretty much to the top. So I'm just gonna go over my pot, give it another stir. And I'm gonna pour this in. And I heard the tomato paste, I heard chunks drop. And there's probably some on my spoon as well. So I'm gonna use my finger to throw it off my spoon. There we go. Okay. I'm going to give this another stir. And again, when you stir, you stop the boiling point sometimes. It doesn't matter. It'll start boiling up again. Now, my husband, he likes what we call zumaki. Zumaki is your sauce from your food, and he wants to dip his bread in. So I'm actually going to add in a little bit more water. And I'm going to go over the sink. Okay, heard it drop into the sink. That means we're full. And I'm going to add in another can. And that's good enough. We can throw that out. Give it another stir. Okay. Now we want our potatoes to finish boiling. I'm going to cover this. Let it come to a boil. And I have tomato paste on my finger, so give me 1 second. I thought I got it all off, but I didn't. So I'm just rinsing off my hands. So, oops. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's us getting our signals mixed up. I'm going to let this come to a boil. And because I'm not using a non-stick pot, if I was using a non-stick pot, I might have took the temperature up a little bit. But because I want my potatoes to boil anyhow, because they seemed pretty hard, and this is also a stainless steel pot, and it could easily, my food could easily stick. I'm going to leave it on medium, maybe even one lower than medium. And I'm going to let this simmer for about 15 minutes, and then I'm going to turn up the temperature. And I'm going to stir occasionally because now you've got your tomato sauce in there, and that's going to mix up with the oil, and it's going to start to thicken up. And we don't want this to burn. So I'm going to let it thicken up and boil for about, I would say, between 20 and 25 minutes. And I will come back and show you the end result and let you know of any more tips and tricks and observations that I may have. So again, wait till this boils, set your timer for 20 minutes, keep it on medium, and stir, I would say, maybe about every 5 minutes. So just to prevent sticking. And I'll see you guys again with the finished product in about 20 to 25 minutes. So see you in about 25. Okay guys, we're back. So our 20 minutes is up. So the first thing I want to tell you guys is that I really wanted to, my husband likes a lot of what we call in Greek zumaki, meaning a lot of liquid sauce so he can dip his bread. In my effort to please him, and I guess because I'm doing the videos, I wasn't thinking, and I added a little bit too much water. If I let this boil so the water can evaporate, I'm gonna get, I don't know, mashed beans and mashed potatoes. And that's not what we want. So, this isn't a disaster. It's good for my husband because he has his soupy liquid. But this isn't how our food should be. You're going to say to me, why are you presenting it to us? Well, I'm presenting it to you because, as I said, this is not Hollywood. This is a real kitchen. I added a little bit too much water. Food is not lost. Now, because I realized that I added too much water, I brought the food to a boil when I left you guys. I brought the food to a boil, and I had it on medium, covered for about 5 minutes, and then I turned it up just a little below high. So my high is the number 9. I had it approximately at 7, or a little between 7 and 8. And I let it boil rapidly, uncovered, for 15 minutes. And I was stirring basically every 2 minutes because I didn't want it to stick. And I'm also using a stainless steel pot. So, we still have a good result in the sense of we've got our beans and potatoes. Our beans and potatoes are not mush. There's just a little bit more liquid than there should be. Personally, for me, there should really be no liquid. There should just be sauce. My husband wants a little bit of liquid. Like I said, he wants to slop up his bread. So, I have one of these. I forget what they're called. I'm sorry, guys. I've told you guys before, I speak 2 languages, so sometimes I forget. It's these big, round ladles, but it's got a whole bunch of holes in it. There's a name for them. It's just escaping me right now. So I'm going to use, I have a bowl in my hand, and I'm going to use one of these because I want to get beans and potatoes out, but I don't want a lot of liquid. So, listen. You can hear the liquid dripping. And I'm just tapping my spoon to get liquid out because I don't want a lot of liquid. So, let's just say I'm serving myself. If I was serving my husband, I wouldn't let so much liquid drop. So, I'm just going to add a spoonful, as much as you want. I dropped that because I felt like I didn't really get a potato. So I want maybe one with a potato. Okay. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm letting all the liquid drop. Now, this is not to say that my husband wants soup. I did overdo it a little bit with the liquid. So he's going to put as much liquid as he wants into his bowl. He's, definitely going to put way more than me. So here is, and I think I put too much in this bowl, but maybe somebody's really hungry. Yeah, I put too much. That's okay. So here's your green beans and potatoes in tomato sauce with lots of parsley. Please don't make the same mistake I did. Add 1 can of water, not 2. Also, don't stinge on the parsley. Try to get the beans that we talked about, barba, stathis, flat beans. Try to get those beans if you can. Now, hold on. If you're going to do fresh beans, saute your onion. You've washed and trimmed your beans. Put your fresh beans into your pot with your water. Don't add your potatoes. Give your beans a boil. I would say probably around 10 minutes, or maybe 5, whatever you think, and then add your potatoes because it might take the fresh beans longer to boil up. and then add your potatoes. It doesn't matter that you're not sauteing the potatoes. You're still going to get the same result. Add your potatoes, boil a little longer. When you add your beans, add your parsley. Add your potatoes, salt, pepper. Boil a little bit longer until you feel your potatoes are tender. They shouldn't be tender, because you want to add your tomato sauce and water and boil it up for another 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes on a higher temperature to thicken it up. So don't make the same mistake I did by adding too much water. I really hope you guys try this recipe. It's an excellent vegan, very healthy recipe. Believe me, even soupy as I made it, it is so tasty just with parsley, salt, and pepper. It's got an amazing taste. That's it for now. I hope you guys like it. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know. Again, you can reach me at zoesblindkitchencorner@gmail.com. And it's a Friday evening. We're off to have our dinner and have a great weekend. Well, I don't know when you guys will be watching this, but we're going to have a great weekend. So, see you soon on the next episode. A blind kiss to you, a blind kiss to you, and definitely a blind kiss to you. Love you guys. Bye. I am your host, Zoe Fiogos. With sincere love and gratitude, I thank you for watching Zoe's Blind Kitchen Corner.